So we'll call the meeting to order. And I don't know.
No. A motion?
So let's just go around and introduce ourselves because we have a new member. Welcome.
Recording in progress.
Do you want to start,
Okay,
Julie?
so I'm Julie Seidel Johnson. I'm the Parks and Rec Director, and I've been here about 10 years as an ex officio member on the board.
And and I'm Leslie Feener. I work at the University of Iowa Office of Community Engagement, and I'm starting my third year on the commission.
Great. This is my first day, and I'm Sue Thompson. Just starting out here. I moved here from Minnesota about a year and a half ago. And I love art.
Are you an artist? Or?
I'm an artist, yeah, but like every other artist, I say I'm usually not. I mean, I do all sorts of different art, but I was teaching art for 25 years, so yeah.
That's great. And I'm Anita Jung, and I'm chairing the committee for this year. And I'm also an artist.
I'm Steph Brunia. I'm a local photographer and I exhibit on occasion. Just had a big exhibition in Des Moines wrap up, which is exciting.
Great.
I'm Sophie Donta. I'm an architect.
And Ryan Kanucky, Public Works Director.
Okay, great. Thank you. And
I'm Rachel Kilberg-Varley, the Public Art Coordinator, and I'll just politely remind everyone when you speak, please lean in and speak into your microphone. Thank you.
okay, great. And so we're going to a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
You want to do the second item first, public discussion of,
Oh, sorry.
do you need an agenda? Are you good?
It's right there. I can see it. But okay, so is there anyone have any discussion of any items not on the agenda? No? Okay. So then should we move on to consider the minutes of the January 8th meeting?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
And any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's passed. Okay, so planning for 2026, the Sculpture Showcase program.
Sure, I can kick this off. So just an overview is that our Sculptor Showcase is 2 years ago, it used to be an annual program, and 2 years ago, I guess it would have been 4 years ago, you all had 2 years, yeah. You all had voted to move to a 2-year schedule, so it's like a longer term for the artist to show, a little bit easier on both their part and ours in terms of the turnover and all of that. So it's a 2-year rotating sculpture program. We have 8 pads throughout the community in different parks and trails in the community mainly. And we're coming up on the end of our current term, so the pieces that have been were put in 2024, and they'll be removed of July, August of 2026. So we need to start planning ahead to announce our next round. The goal would be to announce the round this spring with submissions due in early summer and selection taking place in early summer so that the artists have time to plan their installation for August after the old pieces come out. So in your agenda packet, I have included the different materials that I'm just looking for some discussion and direction on so that we can keep this program moving forward. The main areas that I'm looking for direction on will be the timeline, whether that looks good to you. The artist payment, currently we're providing a $2,250 honorarium to each artist after installation, and that's for that 2-year period. We did increase that amount last go around. And then several documents in there. There's the submission form and the scoring rubric. If you have any input on how we plan to disseminate or promote that submission form and that call for artists when it does go out, I'm open to that. Anita did put together some she looked into different submission platforms that we can post the call on, so we can discuss that. There is a cost associated with it and decide if that's something we want to try out this year. And then finally, I'd want to talk through any public engagement ideas that you'd like to see once the new pieces are installed and ways we can promote them. And we can also, if you want to push that piece of the discussion, we can always have that one later. So do we need any more background on the program itself, or do you want to just talk through these one by one? How do you prefer to take it? You want me to just go through those discussion questions, or?
I guess just for context, have you guys struggled to get submissions in the past? Is that a concern and something?
Do you want to?
I think we've had a pretty good, probably twice, it's not overwhelming, the number of responses, but probably twice as many as we choose, at least, so, yeah.
But I think we're interested in seeing that increase. And that was one of my concerns. And at the last meeting, it was suggested to look into possibly having a broader call. And so that's why I did some research and sent that.
Broader call, meaning outside of Iowa?
No.
Okay.
No, but just to reach more people. Right now, we just advertise that you would have to go on to the PAC.
Yeah, like the city
city
website.
website. And so if we could maybe look into having the call in some of the free papers like Little Village in Iowa City, and then there's a couple other, Des Moines has one, and just to get a broader state participation.
Yeah.
I think since we're talking about that right now, you had a nice list of free places that we could advertise. So I'm wondering if that would be sufficient and not have to do the one that costs money.
Cafe one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have that? Can
Oh, yep, I'll pull it up. I'm sorry.
just so everybody knows what I looked up.
Don't look at the screen if you don't want to get dizzy. Go.
Okay, so definitely I thought just the Iowa Arts Directory would be a good place to advertise, and I think that's loosely affiliated with the Arts Council, Iowa Arts Council, and so they'll do a free listing. Little Village, I don't know if they'll do, but I think they would put it on their calendar. And then there's Des Moines, then there's 365 Inc. magazine in Dubuque, the Ames Community Arts Council info. So there's a couple different, and then of course Arts Iowa, the Arts Council to list it there. I did look into the cafe, and it is a subscription series. It's not outrageous, but I think it would make sense to try these other things before we tried that. Because I'd rather be spending money on the art and giving it, artists than the publicity if possible. But that was just my thinking about that.
I would agree that we try the free ones first, and if we get low turnout, then it's time to think about paid ones, but as long as there are free ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I agree too.
Okay. Is there any other, do you want to go through the points and then we can just
Sure.
touch on those?
Yeah, so we covered that one. The other one, the first one I had on the list was the submission form. So also in the agenda packet, I had included a draft submission form, which is just from last year. So this is an actual application that someone had submitted last year or 2 years ago. So hopefully you all had a chance to review it, but we can kind of walk through it very quickly at a high level. So the first page is just kind of basic applicant information, contact information. We have space for them to include an artist bio, which we then use to promote on our website and that kind of thing. We ask them to submit their current CV or resume, ask about their experience. And then we ask for the piece of work. So we allow up to 3 submissions per artist, but only allow showcasing 2 at a time, up to 2. So in this case, we ask for the title of work, the date it was fabricated, the artwork dimensions. The concrete pads that we have to display on are 4 by 4 by 4, so it needs to fit on that. At least the base needs to fit on that. Ask that they are able to install and meet our display, installation, removal, and display deadlines. We ask for a statement or explanation about the sculpture artwork, the methods, materials, and fabrication. We ask for information about whether the work is suitable for outdoor display and the different conditions that it will be subject to, that it's safe for those who will be visiting it and viewing it. And then we ask for some detail on installation and fastening the artwork to the concrete pad. We also ask for up to 5 images to be submitted of the artwork, and that helps you guys evaluate the work when you're making those submissions. And then they submit a retail price and an insurance valuation. Our city liability coverage will cover that value in the case of damage or like graffiti or anything like that on it. And then the sale price, they are allowed to sell their piece while it's on display. It has to remain on display for the full period under our agreement. So, but if someone is interested in purchasing the piece, that's just handled privately between the seller and the buyer. And then we ask for, professional references, up to 3 professional references.
So can I ask, did anything come up over the past 2 years that this current work has been installed that might make us want to add something to this?
I don't think so. The park staff has provided some feedback about the type of fasteners to be used for installing the artwork. The concrete pads are getting pretty beat up because every artist has kind of their own method and own preferred fasteners, and so they've kind of got pockmarks and old hardware that's stuck into them. So I've asked them for just some feedback before we go forward with this round, so I can make sure to provide that guidance to the artists so that they're all using something consistent that works with what our staff needs. So that's been the main thing. Otherwise, everything's gone off pretty smoothly. We had one piece that was damaged by some kids at the park, but it was, the artist understood that happened, and our insurance was able to help provide help to reimburse him for the damage costs.
Does our insurance have a cap on the value of the individual artworks?
It does. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I think honestly it's far exceeds what you would probably see.
And will we, just for future, will we probably need to think about investing in repairing pads, or will that become part of our budget needs?
Yeah, I would think
I think so, but a few years down the road,
Yeah.
probably. Ron looks like you know.
I mean, I have an idea of how we can deal with that,
Okay.
but
And so we've had no complaints from artists or concerns or just things that you haven't heard from them.
No, I mean, when they were installing, I heard some of the same comments from Tim Adams, just that it would be great if there was like something consistent so that he didn't have to like work around the old like hardware that was still stuck in the concrete pad. But that's really the only thing I've heard. They did really appreciate the 2-year period. That works well for them. They appreciate our timeline because that works well with the other calls that are happening throughout the year. And they, of course, appreciated the increased stipend.
And so you feel the stipend is good for now? We can do that for another year?
That's up to you guys. I haven't heard I haven't gotten feedback from the artists about, I mean, they were great. Those who had participated before and then were showing again were grateful for the increase, but I didn't hear any other feedback beyond that. So it's totally up to you guys.
What was it before the 2250?
It was, I think, 1,150 or something close to that. I should know that off the top of my head. But we did some research into what the other programs do, and we set ours to be competitive with that. Other programs around the state, I should say.
Dubuque has a really nice program, I think.
Okay. Are materials, like I know silver has gone like way up, are other materials way up, or is otherwise, I mean, this seems like a nice increase, and that doesn't need to be increased again right away, but.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Don't have any sculptors.
Yeah.
Trying to get to my phone. I want to look up Dubuque's real quick. I can't get that to work.
Anything on the form that you would like to see changed or added?
I was wondering if there might be more of a draw to have artists come if you paid for the installation costs, because that could be quite expensive for the artist.
We really provide most of it through our park staff.
Okay.
The artist comes in and does, is on present, but park staff does a lot of the actual install work with them.
And you provide like pulleys and things to lift.
Pretty much, yeah. I think we've done all of that.
Yeah, the park staff provides all their equipment and then like the labor. They have
Okay,
staff who can
I
help
was-
lift.
Just think, you said the artists do their own installation, so I just thought they had to bring their trucks out with their lifts and their pulleys and everything, but
Yeah.
if they
Nope.
had to do that, they would lose money on it.
Yeah, the artist is responsible for their transport costs, so whatever it costs to bring their piece to and then remove it and take it back. But for many of them, they do so many of these throughout the year. They have their trailers and things like that, so it's not like a rental cost. It's really just the fuel cost to travel.
This is my first round of the sculpture showcase, and I love all the practicality questions. I came prepared to add them, and they were already there.
You always think about who's going to crawl up on these things in the park.
Yes.
And
How climbable is your
will they
sculpture?
survive?
Yeah, I feel like the honorarium is still competitive. I just
Okay.
kind of did a quick check on
Yeah.
that. So
Great.
Good question. Over here. There you go.
I'm not hearing other comments on the form for now, but we can definitely come back to it if you think of something. I'll just move on to the rubric.
okay, that'd be great.
Oh, did I not include the rubric in the packet?
I don't think it's in there.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That makes it hard for you to review. Let's see if I have it on our website.
It's nice for those of you who might not be familiar with this. It's sort of spread throughout the city quite often. I think people have it, and it's almost a walk, whereas this is much more, almost a treasure hunt. And and which I think is nice. It gets people hopefully to different areas within the city, different parks, and sometimes you just discover them. Walking, which is nice.
Have we done the scavenger hunt before?
Yeah, we did it last year.
I love the
that's
scavenger hunt.
materials from last year. I'm unable to pull the rubric up. I really apologize for that, but I could send that one around after the meeting and if you want to email in comments, we could do it that way.
I had an idea for the scavenger hunt is to have like an art quest on an app.
Oh, nice.
And you go around from place to place and you just look at the QR code on the sculpture, and then it pulls up a little bubble with the artist talking about their piece for about 30 seconds. And then you go on to the next. And there's some apps where you can get like a prize for getting all the artists in, going to each one of them. But I think that would be a really cool thing to have here. Because it would engage the younger crowd, like a Pokemon, whatever they were called.
Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go. It's kind of like that, but not as detailed. But
Does the city have any resources for doing small interviews with the artists?
We do that now. So on our website,
So we do have that.
you'll see that, yeah, each year, Jack Brooks from our cable TV division goes around with me when all the artists come to install. And at that time, he takes photos of their piece, gets some video, and then typically does a little interview with the artist too. So we can put together those videos.
That would be fun, yeah. I have to think of a prize, though.
Yeah. So we've done kind of like the lower budget version maybe of that, where we have a QR code at the art piece. Each plaque has a QR code that the visitor can scan, and then it takes it to our public art sculptor showcase webpage, where they can then learn about the piece and the artist and all of that. But just a little more manual, not an app.
I just found this app online and I was like, oh, but the cost depends on.
Sorry, I just came in, but I can't hear any of you.
Oh, we're talking about.
That's fine. I can hear you now if you speak in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was just curious about a thing that I was looking at where we could do like a GPS type thing where we have the artist's information on a QR code when they look at the piece. And so, yeah, the platform is called Action Bound, the one that I found, and it's based in the UK, but I mean, you can use it anywhere. But they have, it's more expensive if you're doing it as a corporation, but if you do it as a nonprofit or if you're doing it through a school as a student. So if the students were involved, like from the university, to do something like this and put this together, the cost would be minimal. It would be average about $3,000 total for the whole thing. But if the students did it, it would cost like maybe $500. So that's something to consider as well, if that's something you think would be cool. But I just thought it would be a great way to get people engaged in going around the community and looking at art and seeing it in a different way.
Well, are there QR codes on the plaques for each of the art pieces?
Right now, yes.
So that sort of already exists, right?
Yes.
And so we could just add the interview to that probably? Or it would go to something.
Yeah, I mean, right now the video that we have is already on the webpage. When you scan the QR code, it goes to that.
Okay.
So you just use like your phone's camera, basically, and then it scans and opens the webpage. So it does already go to that. It goes to this webpage, where it's like all of them on once. So there's the video about the pieces, and then a little information on each piece. We could change that and have like a different page for each piece maybe, or something like that. But if you wanted to do something more interactive, like an app, that's, I guess, different than this. It's up to you.
The app is, like I said, it's more interactive, and you can show. Do you have that video that I sent you of it?
I'm not sure.
I just sent you an email with it, but it just shows how it works, and it's more of a fun action piece rather than just going to the website. So I just feel like it would get people more involved in it. Everything is becoming more interactive like this with art. I was just down in Spain and Barcelona and went to Dali's museum and Dali's house, and they had this interactive thing where he just went through the whole thing, and it was just all these computer generated images, and it was just very cool to learn the history that way. So this could be another thing that we could do.
I think it sounds really interesting, and it's something we can look into.
Sure.
Oh, I said that sounded very interesting. It was something we could look into.
Oh, Barcelona?
No, an app. Yeah, Barcelona is great.
Can I ask, just back to the showcase page that you were scrolling, are there links to the artists' websites? It might be a nice thing to include.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't see that when you scrolled. Thank you.
Yeah, I think our application asks if they have that they want to share. We'll put it on. Perfect.
But that's definitely something to look into, to think about how to make this more lively would be great.
If you'd like, since the kind of activations piece that can come later, right now we really just
Right.
need to get that call out. So I could review the Action Bound app, other opportunities that are similar to that, maybe more local, and then I could just bring that to you to discuss at an upcoming meeting, give you some cost numbers to actually think about, and then we could go from there.
Yeah,
Does that
sounds
sound good?
really great.
Okay.
And then you'll send us the rubric and we'll just respond to you.
Yeah. Any other feedback at this time?
I felt like the rubric was good. I mean, I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
I
I
usually take notes
missed
if I
that.
do. So,
I have one question just looking at the map. I mean, I know the pads probably exist.
Yeah.
Are the locations 100%
fixed.
fixed and not able to be
Yes.
added to, or okay?
Yeah.
I just noticed they're all east of the river. Just wanted to throw it out there. There are 0 West Side Park locations on the map.
Oh, you mean, yeah, like Willow Creek or?
They're all east side. Mm-hmm. The west side gets forgotten about sometimes, so just for eventual, if we were to add one, we might put it west of the river.
And I think we would probably be more prone to do that when we do have to update the pads. It would just seem more cost effective to just add a pad. But I think that's a really great point, and can we make a note of that?
Sure.
For when that happens, when we do have to replace them, because I think the cost of just doing one would be more than if we just added one when we were doing the, cheaper by the dozen. That's my thought, but I'm not sure.
Well, we already have public art in the West Side parks already, so this was basically adding the public art into basically these locations.
Where it didn't.
I mean, that's how
Right.
that's how these locations were picked originally, right? Was based on trying to get public art into these spaces.
That there was a lack, and so,
Right,
yeah.
there was a lack of public art.
No, that makes sense. I was thinking of it if, like, from a scavenger hunt standpoint, if you're going around and you were someone who lived on the west side,
Right,
you go. Yeah.
I mean, the scavenger hunt idea, right? I mean, there's public art all over, right? So, I mean, it could be more than just the sculpture.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
pads,
you
right?
could do like all the
It could be all of
sculptures.
it. It could be all of our public art.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool, actually. Do a big scavenger hunt.
Oh, yeah, the murals on,
Yep.
yeah.
Great.
Okay, the notes I have from this one is no changes to the submission form. The scoring rubric I'll send out for follow-up comments, and whatever I hear back, if there's changes, I'll send it around to the whole group so you kind of have an idea. We'll focus on the kind of free channels available to us for promoting and disseminating that call for submissions, and we'll keep the stipend at the same amount for this upcoming round. And then at an upcoming meeting, I'll come back with some more details on different like scavenger hunt platform options we could consider. Does that sound good?
Great.
And from the rubric standpoint, it looks like we have a little bit of time before we'd actually be reviewing these anyway, so we could actually discuss that at our next meeting.
Yeah, that's true. I can do that if you prefer. Sure, we'll do that. Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
And were there other things related to this that you wanted us to consider?
No, we probably should have a motion to approve the program, just in the budget amount.
Okay.
Yep.
So would anyone like to?
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So the motion carries. And so move on to informational presentation, proposed arts endowment.
Sure, I will take this one. So this was presented at the City Council's budget meeting a couple weeks ago. And then at their work session on Tuesday night, they also did a little bit of a deeper dive into this. But although it's a little bit beyond the scope maybe of the Public Art Advisory Committee and the actual in public art inventory that we have, it is related to the arts. So we thought it would be valuable to present it to you so you're aware and kind of understand how it fits into the larger ecosystem. So the scope of this, like I said, it's not necessarily tied to public art, but it is a portion of our overall LOST recommendation, and it's intended to provide operating funding support for institutional Iowa City arts organizations, potential support for an Iowa City Arts Alliance if that comes to fruition, and then the creation of an arts endowment, which helps to accomplish those two previous goals, and then also ideally will unlock some additional flexibility in the future. So this is the local option sales tax recommendations, and I am not the one probably who should present on that overall recommendation to you, but it's just to show you how this kind of fits in as one piece of that partnerships piece in the overall recommendation. So kind of the driving factors behind this, currently under the economic development budget. So as you know, my role is the economic development coordinator and the public art coordinator. And through our economic development budget, we provide annual operating fund to 5 organizations: the City of Literature, Summer of the Arts, Englert, Film Scene, and Riverside Theater. And all of those organizations each year come before the Council Economic Development Committee and submit their funding requests for the year. They have, over the last few years, consistently communicated their need for increased funding and just the changes in the landscape, particularly since COVID. Costs are rising, employee costs are rising, attendance is changing. It's not necessarily down, but it's changing in different ways. And so they have demonstrated that need over the past few years. However, because of the larger budget challenges that the city has been facing, particularly due to state property tax reforms, we've been unable to accommodate those requests for increases and have just held them at status quo level. So that's one driving factor, is really responding to that need that we've been hearing and have been unable to meet. The second one would be that historically it's been kind of an inconsistent and unclear process for those arts organizations who have been funded. They've all come up as historically they came up as one-time funding asks, and they were just kind of incorporated over time. They all came at different times, so they came in at different funding environments, and the city budget status was different at all those times. So we really, through this process, also need to kind of establish a clear framework for how those funding allocations are made, what the performance metrics are, and how folks who are not currently funded possibly could request to do so. And then we're also at a really unique time with just a lot of collaboration happening with the arts groups. We've always had that in our community, but we feel like we're at a really great point right now where with the Cultural and Entertainment District, X Marks the Arts, Free Week, the Arts Alliance study, all of these different efforts have just shown that our arts groups are really interested in working together and uplifting the whole ecosystem. And it's consistently been led by those 5 organizations that we've been funding and PS1, who we would look to incorporate going forward. So the goals here, like I've kind of mentioned, it's to increase that long stagnant operating support to provide stable funding to those organizations, continue to encourage collaboration and recognize that the arts are a cornerstone of our economy and our community's identity, gradually shift that support out of the general fund, which is just a more difficult place for their funding to live because there's so many pressures on it, and it's more subject to those property tax reforms I talked about. And then to partner with the Community Foundation to create an endowment, which I'll talk about. So there's a lot of numbers on this slide, and what I want to point out here is that it's kind of a three-pronged strategy on both ends. So the first chart that you're looking at is kind of where the money is going, and that's the breakdown of how we would support different groups. And then the chart to the right is the funding source. That's where the money's coming from. So currently we're funding these organizations out of our general fund, as I mentioned, but we would be looking to step that down over the first 5 to 6 years, as you can see. And then we would be using some loss funding to not only backfill it, but to really bolster investment on the front end so that we can build up that endowment, maintain our operating support for the arts organizations, grow it a little bit, and then after like year 6, we can start to draw on the endowment, and everything's been shifted out of the general fund. So now those organizations will be in a much more stable funding source with the lost and the endowment draw. And then the support breakdown, again, these numbers can change depending on how things shake out, but in general, we want to, again, make sure we're able to meet the operating support for those 6 organizations. In the future, potentially more. It just depends, on how that endowment grows and if we're able to increase that funding allocation either to those organizations or to new ones. The endowment contribution is really the big one, especially in those early years. That's where we're really focusing our investment to seed that, build it, and grow it. And then the Alliance admin is kind of a placeholder right now. We don't know where that is going. We're not sure if an alliance is going to form, but that group is continuing to study the idea. And if one does form, we at least have a little bit carved out to help support the admin costs that come with it. If an alliance doesn't form, then we could just move that over to increased endowment contributions or perhaps operating support for the arts organizations.
And could you relist the organizations for us, the 5 plus then PS1?
Yep.
Too?
It's Film Scene, Englert, Riverside Theater, PS1, Public Space 1, and then Summer of the Arts and City of Literature.
And so you talked a little hesitantly about the alliance going forward. Has that report been submitted?
Nope, I apologize. I didn't mean to be hesitant. I'm losing breath under my mask here. The final steering committee meeting was held, I guess, just last week, maybe. So at that steering committee meeting, the group was really talking about kind of the most impactful types of actions that the alliance could focus on. So basically, in the first 5 years, what things do you think the alliance could tackle that would have the most impact for arts organizations? So they just did some exercises to kind of like zero in on what that would be. And now the consultant's taking that back and they're drafting their final recommendation report. So we don't have that yet. I don't know when we'll get that, maybe like within the month or so. So we can present that to you whenever that's available. But I just don't know based on our conversations right now what the final recommendation will look like. There has been some questions about scope and geography boundaries and all of that, and I'm just not able to.
And so we're sort of the focus is on the 6 that you named, and so is part of the idea of how do more join if they start to grow.
The alliance is bigger than those 6 groups.
Right.
Those
Okay.
6 groups are just what we have historically
Yes.
funded through our economic development budget and who we view as like the institutional arts organizations, right? They're always the ones who are driving, these type of collaborative efforts. The alliance would ideally serve many more than that. It would be open to, if it's Iowa City based, all Iowa City arts organizations. They've talked about, an affiliate model where they have their core membership, and then they also can open it to groups who are maybe a little bit beyond what that scope is. So if there's, nonprofits who support the arts but aren't artists or arts organizations or things like that. So I think they're looking at, like unique hybrid models where they can be as inclusive as they can be without diluting what the impact and the focus is, still maintaining that focus on artists, arts organizations, but allowing space for people who want to support the arts and be involved, the ability to do that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, and I really appreciate the forethought of creating an endowment so that there's a continuation for the funding and for these groups forming the alliance.
Yeah, so I'll kind of continue on. So as I mentioned, it's kind of that three-pronged strategy. And then the implementation would look like year one, we would provide a 10% across the board increase to those 5 organizations that we currently fund, possibly 6. Council indicated a little bit of support for bringing Public Space 1 in earlier than staff was recommending. So kind of across the board increase, and we're really viewing that as bridge funding, just to help those organizations, respond to that need and then plan ahead, because in year 2, we need to discuss how funds are going to be allocated. As I mentioned in the past, they haven't always been super consistent. There's not like a clear framework for who gets what and why. So just understanding that with that redistribution of funds, it may change for folks. So give them a little bit of runway to plan ahead for that. Year 1 and 2 is also really just focused on seeding that arts endowment and building it up, and then possibly seeding an arts alliance if that forms as well. Years 3 to 6, again, continues that focus, just kind of maintaining status quo funding for those arts organizations, just at that little bit higher level, continuing to build the endowment. And then after year 6, which is about fiscal year 33, that's when we get to the point where we could start to draw on the endowment. And then at that point is when what we would be bringing in through the endowment draw and the lost contribution would be a little bit higher than kind of that baseline support for the funding the arts organizations and funding the Arts Alliance. So that extra could be, used in a number of ways. That's when we could possibly look at either increasing funding to those existing orgs, maybe bringing more in, maybe reinvesting back in the endowment. Maybe there's another, at that time, big arts priority that needs some funding. So that's when we start to see that flexibility unlocked, and provides us an ability to do more. I'll kind of skip past that. This is just kind of a model of what we would expect how we expect that endowment to grow. Again, the city would be really just the primary. At this time, we anticipate the only contributor to the endowment. Of course, it would be open to private contributions, but our goal is to seed it at a level sufficient to meet the need. So anything else that we would get from private contributions would be above and beyond. It would be great, but not necessary. Mm-hmm. Kind of talked about some of the goals. We really wanted to support collaboration over competition. That's what the arts groups have spoken a lot about through our Arts Alliance feasibility study, and so we wanted to support that same principle. And again, pairs that stability and that stewardship with growth and flexibility. The endowment would be managed by the Community Foundation. They project a 7% annual return. Historically, they've had much higher returns than that. 7% is pretty conservative. They allow a maximum 5% spending draw. We're recommending a 4% spending draw, but as that grew, we could increase to 5%. And again, that just unlocks more flexibility for us. They do have a investment policy that they will invest the funds in locally. They use 4 local financial institutions. And then the city council would kind of always maintain the decision-making authority over how that funding could be allocated and used. So the Community Foundation really administers it, but city council describes, kind of sets the parameters for it, and then they would have final approval over it. So as it grows in the future, you could envision, where perhaps or maybe this is even a pilot for something that could help support the public art program. Maybe a similar approach could be taken for public art, or public art could get wrapped into this funding source to provide more funding. I'm not promising that or anything, just again, pointing out all the flexibility that is going to be there once the endowment is up and running. So I just wanted to present this again just as like informational slides so you're kind of aware of what's out there, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I think it's really exciting. I think it's a really great step forward in solidifying, and it's going to create a really healthy atmosphere for the arts in Iowa City and also allow them to be more collaborative. I love those ideas. And, the 6 that are on this list are definitely in the forefront, but I love the idea that they're open to being inclusive, and wanting to bring more, like more is better attitude, and to offer collaboration. I know that PS1 has always been willing to collaborate with different organizations and bring them under the PS1 umbrella. And so it sounds like some of that sentiment, as has the Englert and Film Scene and these other entities. So I think it's a really exciting first move, and I think as this becomes more solid and strong, it would lend itself, for some of the things that we heard in the small study we did, when we were trying to create our strategic plan of trying to create space for arts and artists, space for them to work in and exhibit in, so, which was overwhelmingly what we heard. So thank you for putting that all together.
Yeah, no problem.
It's exciting. And so are there any staff updates? Or did you want to move on, or did you have further?
Yeah, we can do staff updates. So just a couple other things I'll point out that were in your agenda packet. One, you had requested last meeting just an annual calendar, so I put that in there. Let me see if I can get to it. Oops. Just so you kind of have an idea of, what that cycle looks like throughout the year. The left green column is items that would come to a PAC meeting, and then the right blue column is kind of what staff is working on in the background during that time. So typically we're doing, the public art matching grants. They start early in the new year, and then we have those funded by end of the spring. Around that same time, we start planning for the Sculptor Showcase, and then we have that decided early summer with installations taking place in late summer. We've now added the Senior Center Art Gallery, so we just did that, and it'll seem like it comes up quickly again because we adopted it so late in the year last year. We kind of had to do our call for artists really quickly, but we'll want to provide for a little more planning this year, so we'll revisit that over the summer and start planning for next calendar year for 2027, where we'll be doing that. We do the Longfellow Tunnel painting project with Southeast Junior High every September. So those are kind of the cyclical kind of annual things we do. So just so you have an idea on here. If I miss something, let me know. And then the other thing I included in your packet was just a report of all the 2025 matching grants. Those were all completed, except for one down at the mill. That applicant had some kind of extenuating circumstances, so I granted them a 1-year extension. So we'll just carry over their funds and take them in with the next round in December 31st of 2026. But the rest were all completed. They submitted their grant reports and some photos, which were really great. So I just included that so you can kind of see the impact that was made, and before we award for our new round soon.
Great.
Other than that, the only other updates I wanted to share was that for our 2026 matching grant program, I held the webinar, I think it was last week, the informational webinar for people interested in applying for that grant program. And is that good? It might go all the way off. For that grant program, we had several attendees, and then those applications will be due March 3rd, and then you'll make the selections at your April meeting. And then the Senior Center Gallery is having their ribbon cutting for their first exhibition on February 14th. That's at 4:15 p.m. If there's anyone who's interested in attending that and kind of being a representative for the Public Art Commission, maybe sharing some remarks, I would love to have you. So is there anyone who would be potentially interested and or available?
I'm tentative. I'm waiting to find
Yeah.
out some things. So
Okay.
Like
well,
I could
you can think of-
probably.
Okay.
that'd be
I
great.
don't know.
All right.
What time is it again?
4:15.
Oh yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I could do that.
Yes. Aaron, who wasn't able to make the meeting, said he's available as well. So I can reach out to you too, or if there's anyone else who's interested, just send me an email. That's all from me.
Is there any old or new business? Can I put something? Can I say something? So the Longfellow project has always been such a great project, and I'm wondering if we could think about possibly allocating funds and seeing if there's interest in the other junior high as well as our two high schools, and maybe also establishing some kind of an annual project for them too with those art teachers. It's just, I feel like we get such a great return on a, fairly small investment. And it really, I also know that our local art teachers put in tons of work and finance a lot of things out of their own pockets. And so I think this would be a great way to reach out to those teachers and just suggest it to them. And they might be like, no, my curriculum's good, I'm fine. But just to let them know that would be something that a possibility for them if they wanted to, also have something like like this project.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
And there's certainly there's plenty of bike underpass tunnels around to choose from.
Right, which is such a neglected space, and usually, that could be cool. What do you think?
I'm happy to reach out to the teachers and see what they think or what ideas they have. If it's a consensus of.
I think it's a great idea.
Sounds like
And would we have that amount? We do have that amount in our budget.
Well, I don't know what amount you're thinking, and it probably depends on the project they would want to do.
Well, don't we sort of have a set amount with Longfellow of $500?
We provide them 500, yeah.
And so we could start with that maybe and see if they would want more or.
My concern is it does take a fair amount of staff time to set that up each year. And so going from 1 to 5, at least in 1 year, would be a big ask. So we might want to do something that we
Like one school,
that
one
we
more.
grow it slowly.
Grow it slowly?
Yeah, and I'm just not sure. Also, Longfellow Tunnel was specifically chosen originally because of the amount of graffiti it got, and this really solved that issue under that tunnel. I don't know that we have another one that is similar in. We'd have to do some thinking about what other site might be similar to it. It also works for them because of its close proximity to the school. So there's several things
logistics.
about this one particular project that make it unique to Southeast. Plus the teacher, she kind of envisioned it from the start.
She's wonderful.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say no to doing it with other teachers, but just realize there's several unique things that made this one a real win-win kind of for all parties in there. So.
But it also might not have to be that. It could be something else that the teachers might envision or want to do. And so maybe if we just offered it to one other school or something, would that be?
I could
And grow it?
start as just like an informal conversation with a few of them, try to pull them together and just say like, what ideas would you have with this? Not limiting them to like a tunnel, and because I
Right.
don't even know if
Or
we
a
would have
mural
that.
or- Yeah.
Or a mural, and just maybe see what they have before even offering funding. Just kind of get some ideas and see. We could go from there.
I'm guessing North Liberty and Coralville also have public art. I'm just thinking about it, of which schools are in which town, technically. But if those two cities would also contribute to some of this. Like the two of the schools are in North Liberty, one of them's in Coralville, 3 are in Iowa City. So if they have staff or staff time or budget for it to like collectively between the 3 towns get all 6 schools covered.
Yeah, it might be just for us to look at the Iowa City ones to start and then go from there, I guess. What do you all think?
It's Southeast that does it now?
Correct.
Okay, so maybe just starting with the middle school.
Well, Northwest is technically in Coralville, right?
Schools in Iowa City.
It is in Iowa City.
There's Southeast Junior High is the only, or the Southeast Middle School is the only school of that level in
Yeah,
Iowa City.
that's what I thought. And so maybe it would be more, we could reach out to City High or to West, the high school, if you wanted,
Okay.
to keep it.
Yeah, but there's still the Iowa City School District, so, right?
But it's, what are we?
Yeah. Who are we?
Supporting. I guess, I don't, that seems more the issue. But, and then we can kind of sort that out as we,
I mean, if the art is taking place in Iowa City, it's probably not as big of a deal.
Right.
Where it becomes a complicating factor, one of the biggest logistical factors for the current Southeast Junior High project was transportation.
yeah.
And just like the time and stuff. So I don't know if that would be a barrier.
And like I said, some teachers might be, that's not part of what they're trying to do, so. But if you could make some inquiries and maybe just have more logistical conversations about it.
Sure.
If those art classes wanted to do public art in Iowa City, they have opportunities to apply for the grants that we
Yeah, that's true.
are already offering.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
I was going to say that, and we've been approached, like for instance, Willow Wind School did an art project in the parks all on their own. They just worked with us for permission to place it in the parks. Mm-hmm. So I know that, I mean, we could have this kind of avenue in place if they want.
Okay.
So unclear on direction. Did you want me to?
You just reach out and see if there's interest.
Yeah, and you could also tell them about the funding application processes that we have already.
Good timing, I suppose.
Yeah, stress that we
Are
we
open
have
to
these and that the committee is excited about projects like we see from Southeast, like, I don't know, plant a seed.
Well, and actually the matching grant, some of these might be a good pilot for them. And then to establish a long-term relationship like with Longfellow would be sort of, once we have an idea of what they want and how much time and effort it might take for staff and other, other areas. And so just reminding them of the funding available, I think would be really great. I love talking through things with you all. It just makes me smarter. Is there any other old or new business? Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Was there an opportunity for the public to speak?
Yeah.
I didn't hear it.
it was earlier before you got here.
Start.
Before I got here? Okay, well, I apologize. But it's actually kind of appropriate that I'm here, and I appreciate that you take the time to listen. Rachel, I really appreciated your public art.
Do you want to take public comment, Anita? So
We wait till next month.
do you want to reopen public comment or not? It's up to the committee.
I think we have to wait till
Please.
next month.
I don't see why not.
Why not? We're already here.
I will talk to each of you individually. It doesn't really matter. You're going to hear what I have to say, so you might as well just listen to me and do it appropriately. It's fine.
fine.
I'm a citizen. I'm your constituent. Okay? I use the parks. I use the public works. I'm going to apply for this program. My kid goes to Willow Wind. I live across the street from Southeast Middle School, across the street from Mercer Park. You can close your eyes all you want, ma'am. I came because I participated in the thing that Rachel did. There weren't a lot of people. It was pretty disappointing, actually, but it was, that there weren't a lot of people that were participating. But it was a very cool forum, what the Zoom call you did. But I was able to. She did give me the information of an artist, and we talked a little bit about doing a public project in Mercer Park. And she happens to be a alum of Southeast Middle School, and so and she paints murals, and she actually happens to have already done a mural in one of her kids' schools. Okay, so I'm part of the East Side Neighborhood Association. Okay, and we are going to be applying for these grants. Southeast Middle School is a great place. They've done a lot of good work. And the expansion, okay? And, but yeah, something that's really missing is art and color on the walls and involving the kids. I was talking to my daughter, she's 7, and we were talking about what would be the best project to do with this public arts money with Sarah, this mural artist who likes to paint bees and birds and plants and stuff. She was like, oh, it'd be so cool to paint the benches like they are downtown, okay? So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I believe that you felt some issue with me coming into the meeting, and you asked this gentleman to come in behind me. But that's what it felt like. I'm sorry, but I suffer from PTSD, and so and social anxiety. So coming to a meeting like this, and then not being able to hear at all, because I'm also hard of hearing, and I got my eyes dilated today, so not being able to read the information, so there's some things, like accommodations and considerations for the public. And I was really quite surprised to see that it was in this room when they had, when I came to the climate action meeting, and it was a lot more people, but it was in a smaller room. Again, I was the only person who was not asked to be there that actually was there. And so I don't know, I'm very curious about the way that public government, city government works here in Iowa City. I'm not from here. But the fact that there's nobody here leads me to believe, maybe there are people on, I don't know, is this streamed or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe there are people there, but I don't know. I couldn't hear you, and it's a big room, and I had to ask multiple times for you to actually use your microphones, and I appreciate that you did, but be considerate of the people who come through. Don't treat us like what are we? I'm a citizen, I'm a voter, and as far as I know, none of you are actually elected. And so that's a privilege that you have to be in your role.
Yeah, we're all volunteers here.
Exactly. No, you're not all volunteers, because they're staff and they're paid a lot of money to control and do the work that they do. You might be volunteers, and I understand that. I appreciate that.
Do you have a
I appreciate that you are a volunteer.
Do you have,
these people are not.
Sir,
this is their,
what was your
they're
name
paid
again?
to do this.
I didn't get your name.
My name is Noah Stein.
Okay.
I'm a resident. I live at 2502 Bradford Drive.
Do we
You're welcome
want
to give
to-
me a call. My number is 319-541-8607.
Do we want
I'd like
to
to talk to
do
Mr.
middle school? What-
Knock, if that's your name, about the streets in front of my house. And I'd like to talk to you,
But we're
ma'am,
with the-
about the parks and doing
Thank you
public
so
art.
much.
Okay.
Because we're going to need permission to do that stuff.
No, but
okay?
we're the Public Art Advisory Committee.
I understand that.
So you're interested in a mural artist doing a mural in the East Side
Southeast
neighborhood?
No, it was what was interesting. I'm here because I'm interested in this grant. I'm
Okay.
trying to find out what you guys actually do, and
So the grant.
I wanted to
the
know. And I'd
directions-
like to get that information about the endowment, because that's not in the packet, unless that's proprietary information and it's not public.
I just sent you an email right before. Sorry, I was out with sick earlier this week, but I responded to your email and I included a link to the council's meeting on Tuesday, which was the same presentation.
Okay.
Or you'll have it on. the
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. I've had a lot of luck working with many different people so far. Sarah Gardner, Rachel has been very responsive.
And so you're
And
interested.
I'm very happy about that. Oh, I'm very interested in public art. Mercer Park has a mural underneath the shelter that is outdated and disgusting and old and looks bad and needs to be redone. We have benches around the playground that could use a mural, that could use painting on it, just like any of the benches down at the Ped Mall. We have a peace pole. What kind of things are done around the Peace Pole? Like, what kind of Park District activities are actually done to promote this? And I mean, I'm here and I'm going to use this opportunity to speak directly to you. Because I've already talked to people at the Park District and the city, but I want to make sure that you are on board to make sure that Bradford is actually a safe street. People drive down and up and down that street like they're bats out of hell.
Noah,
I understand, ma'am. I understand.
Well, no, that's just not what we oversee.
I understand, but that's what she does. Okay?
well,
And I
so
understand that
that's-
she can make
that's not why
believe that this
she's
is not
here
the
right
place for that.
now.
But this is the
And
place
so-
that it's going to happen.
Well,
Okay? It's happening right now, and you, like, I'm a citizen. You want to talk over me because of that?
No, I would just want to
All
get
right.
to the public art, what our mission is here.
You don't have to patronize me. You don't have
Okay.
to condescend to me, ma'am. Okay?
No, we just
It
have
was
to-
hard enough to not be able to hear you.
Noah,
Talk softly.
due to open meeting law, we have to stick with what's on the agenda. So we're happy to connect you with any answers you have about streets projects or anything. But at this time, for public comment period, it's a time when the public can share comment. It's not typically a time when the commission is responding. So I'm happy to kind of talk through like meeting rules or how we typically do things, just so it makes sense for you in the future. But
Thank you
at
so
this
much.
time, I think
Thank you very much, Ms. Kilberg. I
at this
appreciate
time,
it.
I think we probably need to bring public comment to a close because it sounds like
Sure.
the rest of your comments were not related to public art. So we'll.
Well, just what's related to public art is, Willowwood does great things, and they know about these grants because I've been bringing them to them. I'm trying to work on something with the ESNA. We have a meeting on Monday if you want to come and you want to talk to us about Mercer Park and what we can do there. You guys want to come and represent yourself there? Cool. ESNA, Hy-Vee, 6:30. Come to the little cafe area. You can talk about it, and we want to be a part of that. That particular area, it has a dearth of public art. And I don't think anybody in here can argue with that. I mean, you can be smug, ma'am, but that's you being smug. But
If you have an artist who's interested in this
she-
grant,
we've talked about it.
the
We've talked
calls
about it.
went
I'm
out
trying to
in
communicate with
January.
them.
The call went out in
I
January,
came-
and it's
look,
due
look.
in March. And so if you
You
have
almost-
that, we would
no,
love
no,
to
I
have
understand-
a proposal.
You almost didn't let me talk. You were deciding whether or not to let me talk
Because
I took the
we
public
went
bus
out of
down
the
here
agenda.
and
It's just-
then because I wanted to interject because you were talking about my neighborhood, you're talking about my child's school, you're talking about the school where my child will go to middle school, you're talking about where her aunt teaches. I mean,
Well,
so
we're just,
yeah, I
and we're
want you to
talking
hear
about
these
trying
things.
to have art
Yeah,
in
well,
those places.
I mean, I'm
so-
going to keep rambling if you're going to keep interrupting me. And you can cut off the mic and then I can
Yeah,
do
we
your
should probably
thing.
do that.
But
I'm just not sure what your question is.
No, I think.
I think you wanted to make a comment, not
this
ask the
time.
questions.
yeah, I don't really want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Do you want to
I don't
adjourn the
really wanna
meeting?
talk
Yes,
to you. I'll talk to you.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
So, okay, thank you.